and welcome back to another episode of The Pilot Principle, the podcast where we take a look at just the first episode of a series, the pilot, and then use it to decide if we should watch the entire series, or at least the second episode. You know, we're only human. Now, if you're not already following, and I know you're not, because my listener numbers have gone up, but my follower numbers have stayed exactly the same. So come on and join the Pilot Pirates. No, that's terrible. Okay, I'll keep workshopping. But for the time being, just do me a favor and hit follow if you are new here or you are a regular who isn't already doing so. Now, on this episode of The Pilot Principle, we shall be taking a look at episode 1 of BBC's new teen thriller series, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. The series synopsis for A Good Girl's Guide to Murder reads as follows. Holly Jackson's hit mystery, a schoolgirl's killed by her boyfriend. Case closed, right? I hope you heard the question mark in that case closed, right? Question mark? Now, before we take a look at the pilot episode itself in lengthy detail, let's first look at the credits. And I love me some credits, but I'm not going to lie to you people, this one's a little bit dry. So let us whiz through this. I mean, you can tell it's dry because first of all, there is no pilot title. Why, oh why do writers not give their episodes pilot titles? Pilot titles are so exciting. I mean, they entice us. They give us a few clues into what the episode could possibly be about. Like, if it was up to me, I don't know, actually, if it was up to me what I would name the pilot for A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. But the pilot synopsis tells us that teenager Pip investigates the disappearance of 17-year-old Andie Bell. And we have an episode length of 39 minutes and a series length of 6 episodes. All pretty typical BBC, British drama statistics. Logistics? Something sticks. The unnamed pilot title was written by Poppy Kogan, who is also the series creator. And Kogan has written episodes of Red Rose and Chloe. And that's it. Next, we have our director, who is Dolly Wells. And Dolly Wells has directed an episode of Good Posture. And that's it for old Dolly Wells. She's actually got more credits as an actress. And she has starred in The Completely Made Up Adventures of Dick Turpin, Inside Man, and Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, but that doesn't really tell us anything about her directorial skills. So moving swiftly onwards onto the cast, and A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, the pilot, stars Emma Myers as Pippa Fitz-Amobi. Myers is likely known to most for starring in Wednesday, and she's also starred in the film Family Switch. And then we have Zayn Iqbal, who plays Ravi Singh, and Iqbal has starred in All Crazy Random and the short Why Me. Those two are it for our main cast members, but the pilot also stars Arsha Banks, Henry Ashton, and India Lily Davies as Andie Bell, and Rahul Patni as Sal Singh. In case you missed it, you can watch A Good Girl's Guide to Murder on BBC One. Not exactly where I would have pegged the series going, but sure, whatever, gives it some credibility, at least in the British sphere. And you do not have to wait weekly for episodes because all episodes are available to watch immediately over on BBC iPlayer. I can never tell if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but it's the thing. Now, in terms of what made me want to watch A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, you will be completely unsurprised to know, if you have been listening to the podcast for a while, that I read the book. I read the book of which the series is based, and I loved the book. The book took me by such surprise. The entire series, which is 3 books, 5 stars. 5 stars. And I know, I can hear all the jaws that have just dropped because I'm always loath to give things 5 out of 5 or 10 out of 10. With books, I typically am a little bit more forgiving because a book is such a thing to invest in. But I'm not exaggerating when I say the entire Good Girl's Guide to Murder series is a 5-star read. So before I start ranting over my love of the book series, that is all to say that, of course, I was going to watch the live action adaptation of the series. Although I will admit that I listened to the audiobooks, but the audiobooks I listened to were American. So everything is just a little bit different. And I actually had no idea that the book series was British. But that is all to say that I too will be in for some surprises despite having read the book, because who knows what they change from the original English to the adapted American. Why do they do that? That's a question for another kind of podcast, but let us move forward because now we are going to finally get into the first 10 minutes of the unnamed pilot episode of A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Why the first 10 minutes, you wonder with bated breath? Well, porque the first 10 minutes of a television pilot should intrigue us to keep going. It is typically the end of Act 1, or at least the point of the inciting incident within the first act. So by the end of the first 10 minutes, we should know the direction in which the story is heading. And as well as that, we should know a little bit about our main character and the world that they inhabit. And all of these things should convince us to keep watching until the end of the episode. And so the first 10 minutes of A Good Girl's Guide to Murder goes like this. We watch as a blonde girl, dazed from a head injury, walks down the street at night and disappears into the woods. And then we get hit with 5 years later. Then we are in the same small English village of Little Kilton, and we meet 5 friends who have finished school for the summer, including our protagonist, Pippa Fitz-Amobi. Now, Pip, fails miserably at distracting the shopkeeper while her friends try to buy alcohol, and as they walk and laugh and enjoy the uncommonly warm English weather, they pass a memorial for the blonde girl we met 5 years ago, Andie Bell. We then get a bit of Pip's family life. So we meet her mum, her dad, and her younger brother, as well as the family dog, Barney. And it is while Pip is taking Barney on a walk that she sees some kids play Knock Down Ginger at a house that has the words Scum Family spray painted on it. We then get hit with a flashback of a young Pip at school who watches a crying Andie Bell walk into a room, but not before looking at Pip and putting a finger to her lips, signalling Pip to keep her whereabouts a secret. Back in the present, and firstly, for some context, over the summer, Pip needs to do an EPQ, which is an extended project qualification, which will go on her university application. So after seeing the mean kids playing Knock Down Ginger and her flashback, she then decides to do it on the Andie Bell case. She gets her friend Cara to meet her at Andie's memorial, where she tells Cara that she will be doing her EPQ on the Andie Bell case. And Cara says there is no case because the boyfriend, Sal Singh, did it. However, Pip reminds Cara that Andie's body was never found. There was no trial for Sal, who was also head boy and en route to Cambridge. Basically, he had none of the markers of the kind of guy who would go around murdering his girlfriend. Pip goes home and starts her murder board, and not gonna lie to you, I kind of have questions about what kind of paint she has that allows her to write all over her walls so freely, but again, a question for another time perhaps. So as Pip draws all over her wall and starts making her murder board, she watches old news coverage of Andie's disappearance, and it's through these old media coverage that we also learn that Sal confessed and then killed himself, and that the last person to see Sal alive was his brother Ravi. The next morning, Pip says hello to Ravi with bribery muffins in tow, and that is about the 9-minute mark. But just to get us to the end of the scene, Pip and Ravi are outside of Ravi's house, which is the one with Scum Family spray painted on it, and Pip tells Ravi that she would like to talk to him about his brother Sal. However, this does not go down as well as Pip envisioned, and Ravi basically storms off and leaves her alone to consider her actions. And that's about the 11-minute mark and how we will leave things. From those first 10 minutes, I think we get a really good understanding of Pip's character. She is a goody-goody. We also understand that Pip lives in a very small town where everybody knows everybody. From the first 10 minutes, I like that we get drips of Andie and Sal from 5 years ago, because personally, I kind of hate it when they just have those flashback scenes at the very beginning of the pilot episode, and then we just never circle back around to that until the very last episode. So I was very happy about that. And also the opening was good with this blonde girl with a head injury wandering alone in the dark and disappearing into the woods. Very ominous. We also have questions from the first 10 minutes. I'm wondering, why has Pip decided to take on the case/investigation for her EPQ? Who else will she try to talk to? And will Ravi eventually change his mind and help her? Moving on to the main characters, or I should say character singular, because there really is only one to talk about, and that is of course Pippa Fitz-Amobi, aka Pip. I know it's likely clear from the title of the series, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, but Pip is in fact a good girl. We watch in the first 10 minutes as she is unable to lie and be a decoy for her friends, but that isn't the only earmarker within the episode. We watch as Pip tells somebody that she doesn't drink. We can see how important her EPQ is to her, the fact that she's starting it on the first day of summer vacation when none of her other friends could give a toss. And another thing about Pip is that she is like a dog with a bone. Once she sets her mind on looking into the Andie Bell case, that automatically takes over absolutely everything. We learn from the pilot episode that Pip is a solutionizer, so she doesn't really like things being unresolved, which is maybe why she's always been drawn to the Andie Bell case. She's not about justice, she just wants everything neatly tied up in a bow. That being said, though, Pip is emotionally invested despite her sometimes clinical nature, because we learn that in her memory of seeing Andie at school crying, Sal then appears looking for Andie and asks Pip if she has seen her. Pip then tells Sal exactly where Andie has gone. To Pip, Sal has always been a good guy, and it's like she can't believe that this guy would murder his girlfriend. Or she doesn't want to believe she had something to do with Sal eventually killing Andie, because in the flashback, Andie is in the exact same outfit that we see her in at the very start of the episode, aka the night that she disappears / dies ? So yes, Pip is the opposite of a troublemaker. She's dog-eared, she is a tactical and somewhat clinical person, and to everyone around her, she is somewhat abrasive. She is so focused on the facts and on getting information despite the consequences of her actions. And we do see a few of these consequences in the pilot episode. So her friend Kara asks Pip not to talk to her sister, Naomi, about Sal because Naomi and Sal were good friends. But Pip ignores Kara completely and interviews Naomi about the night that Andie died and when Sal was last seen. Later on in the episode, Pip goes to interview someone called Max Hastings, but Max tells Pip he will only answer her questions if she takes a shot. Now, Pip tells him that she doesn't drink, but despite the fact that she doesn't drink, she decides to drink just to get the information that she needs. And then, of course, there is that scene at the end of the first 11 minutes where Pippa goes to talk to Ravi about Sal, but the way she approaches Sal is very clinical. Ultimately, though, at the end of the day, Pippa gets exactly what she needs. She interviews Naomi and gets the information she needs. She takes shots and gets the information she needs from Max. And then at the end of the episode, she goes and talks to Ravi to apologise, but she still gets the information that she seeks, which we will find out about in a moment. Because yes, there are consequences to Pip's actions in the pilot episode, and so we are already beginning to wonder at what cost will Pip get the truth of what happened to Andie Bell and Sal Singh. And now it is time for a quick interlude to see what TV and film life is looking like beyond the pilot principle. Of course, starting with books, and I finished Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi, and I am now halfway through This Is How You Lose a Time War by Amal El Mutar and Max Gladstone. This Is How You Lose a Time War is so far okay. Not gonna lie, it's probably a little too intelligent for me. And it wasn't the best book to have read while I was away on holiday for a week. But as I said, I'm halfway through. I'm not enjoying it, so we'll see how that fares. It's quite a short book, so I'm hoping, don't hold me to it this time, but I'm hoping I can finish it by the end of this week. In regards to film, I only watched The Family Affair, whatever it's called, over on Netflix, which was, as I'm sure nobody will be surprised, absolutely awful. I mean, it wasn't even good bad. My main problem, I had many problems, but one of my main problems was that Zac Efron's character, they made out to be really bad, but not bad enough that she wouldn't quit working for him. They were kind of friends. He was just more like a lonely, spoilt brat of an older brother than anything else. But they kept trying to paint him as this big bad guy, and it just wasn't quite working. And then at the end, after a year, and then the main character is just working as a producer. Unbelievable. Literally unbelievable. But yeah, I haven't rated it yet. Don't know what I'm going to rate it, but it won't be high. Otherwise, in terms of film, I need to play catch up this week. So I need to watch Axel F, Kinds of Kindness, and Maxine. So those three are on my immediate list. However, can we just quickly talk about how quickly movies are coming out of cinema? I have been away for a week, and at my local View, Horizon, gone. Kinds of Kindness, gone. These movies only came out a week ago. Why have they already disappeared from screenings? And I've already checked this week and there's only a handful of showings left for Maxine. And again, that didn't even come out that long ago. So honestly, if anybody wants to go to cinema to watch anything, don't overthink it. Just go, because you will soon miss your opportunity and just have to... I guess you don't have to wait that long for it to come out on TV these days, but you know, I want the cinematic experience. So if you want that too, run to the cinema, don't walk. Now over in TV land, I watched Bridgerton Series 3. That's right, the entire Series 3. Well done me. Pat, pat, pat on the back. It was good. I enjoyed it. Just a quick thought or quick note on book comparison, because yes, I've also... I've read the Bridgerton book series before the series came out. I'd already started it. So I think at this point I've read all bar one. I think I got Gregory's book left to read. Ultimately, I think the adaptation was really good from book to screen. I really liked the way that they dealt with Eloise and Penelope and the Lady Whistledown story arcs. In the book, that wasn't quite concluded, so I was very pleased that they concluded it properly in the series. I will also kind of say that I'm sorry, Colin is just not attractive at all. So yeah, that was I basically just giggled through all his smouldering sexy scenes because they were I just couldn't believe that. It's not that Anthony or the Duke were particularly great either, but I just couldn't with Colin. I just couldn't. Now, otherwise in TV land, I do intend to watch My Lady Jane over on Prime Video. The Bear Series 3 is still staring at me, but I will stare right back and get to the bear when I am good and ready. And somebody did suggest that I watch Douglas Is Cancelled. So those are the 3 shows that are on my immediate list to get to. Now, before we get back into the rest of the pilot review, make sure you're following at Pilot Principle on Threads, Instagram and Twitter/X, and over on TikTok at A Writer of Sorts, where we can continue to chat and agree to disagree on the latest in film and TV and books. Now, in terms of what I liked about the pilot episode, the unnamed pilot episode of A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, there wasn't really anything that really stood out to me as being that fantastic. However, I will say that I did really like the montage of Pip writing on her wall and trying to work out the case. I think the way that they used her listening to old media coverage of the Andie Bell and Sal Singh case was really inventive, as she was scrawling all up and down her walls. I think what this scene did really well was reinforce the character of Pip. She's a person that takes the things that she chooses to do seriously, from her EPQ to the Sal Singh and Andie Bell case. In fact, perhaps she's the kind of person that will allow all of these things to consume her, perhaps to the detriment of her safety and her health. Now, on the flippity flip side, in terms of what I didn't so much like about the pilot episode, again, there's nothing really specific, but I will say that the acting is really not selling it for me. I know, look, we all know that I already just am not a massive fan of shows about teenagers or books about teenagers, but I do really enjoy teen thrillers or teen thriller books, and this is of course a teen thriller adaptation, so I figured that I might be a little bit more enthralled, have a little bit more enjoyment. But the acting just wasn't it. I mean, more so to do with the surrounding cast, you know, outside of like Pip and Ravi, and even the glimpses we get of Andie and Sal. They were okay, but everyone else just kind of felt like extras, and I was like, why are you talking? And why are you talking like that? I felt like they were just saying things to fill space and fill time outside of Pip and her investigation. I don't know. Does that make any sense? They were just there to fill a purpose as opposed to having their own purpose. Except for Ravi's mum. She was funny. And also I liked Pip's dad, Victor. He was also jokes. Now, before we get into the all-important question of whether or not one shall be continuing with A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, let us take a look back at the pilot itself. So the synopsis, as a reminder, tells us that teenager Pip investigates the disappearance of 17-year-old Andie Bell. Yeah, simple, factual, true. I think the writing was fine. The setting was also fine, but I feel like it could have been a bit cozier. I really feel like they could have, honed in on the small townness of Little Kilton. Yeah, Little Kilton. In terms of pace, so. I mean, I think I don't know if I'm supposed to be scared. I mean, I guess not, because Pip is arguably looking at a cold case. But there were a few moments that the vibe kind of felt off, or the vibe felt like I should be worried for Pip, or it felt like Pip herself was afraid of certain characters, and I was wondering why she was afraid of these characters, because she hadn't yet vocalized, or she hadn't vocalized that she thought any of these people had killed Sal Singh or had something to do with Sal Singh's suicide or Andie Bell's potential murder / disappearance. Specifically, it was when she was talking with Max Hastings and an unnamed man, and even Cara and Naomi's dad, Elliot Ward. Those were the times where, I don't know, the tone, the camera, all of it shifted to make us think that Pip should be afraid, very afraid, but without real reason thus far. So the pace, was a little bit off for me. Now, in terms of the end of episode hook, Pip gets a look at Sal's phone, which is where his confession is. And when she reads his confession and looks back at the rest of Sal's texts, it's clear that somebody else wrote his confession. And the question is, of course, who? Now, in terms of the serial arc, we have a bunch of questions and a bunch of wild speculation as to where that could rove. Of course, the first is who did in fact kill Andie Bell. If Andie Bell is dead, no body, no murder. So, that's something to be investigated over the course of the series. The next question is, of course, did Sal kill himself, despite the well-punctuated text that leads Pip to believe that somebody else wrote his confession? Perhaps he also just felt like being grammatically correct with his final breath or thumbstroke. We also get a few hints of other characters and secrets that they might be hiding. And the question is, of course, whether this will be connected to the Andie Bell case or the Sal Singh case. One of these arcs is what is happening with the Bells, specifically Jason Bell, the father of Andie Bell, and the father of Becca Bell, who is Andie's sister. Because we see Jason leave a weird message to Becca on the phone. It might not have been a message, he could have just been talking to her, but he was a little bit irate, let's say. Also, there is clearly something that Naomi Ward is hiding. So she was friends with Sal, but when Pip comes to interview her, she gets really emotional. And it's like, why are you being so emotional? What secret are you keeping? And also, why did her friend Cara not want her to talk to Naomi? And finally, based on some of the shots, I'm already suspicious of Cara and Naomi's dad, Elliot Ward. So what are all these people hiding? I mean, it's a small town mystery. So some things will undoubtedly lead to being about Andie and Sal, and some things are just people keeping their own secrets. So I guess that is what will be discovered along the course of the series. And now there's only one question left to ask. Will I be continuing with A Good Girl's Guide to Murder? Pause for dramatic effect. Duh, yes. And here is why. Firstly, obviously, I'm just massively biased. I love the book and I kind of want to see how it will be adapted because I live for that kind of shit. Otherwise, yes, one does love a mystery and it is interesting to see it done from an adolescent point of view. I mean, Veronica Mars walked so Pippa Fitz-Amobi could run. And I want to see where she's going to run on screen. There are a lot of hints threaded into the pilot episode of who could have possibly killed Andie if Andie Bell is dead, or who could have had something to hide in general. So I'm curious to see how that will unfold. Has somebody lied to the police because they didn't want to get in trouble for something, but actually that could lead us to finding Andie or finding the truth about what happened to Sal Singh 5 years ago. But that is, of course, just me. So you might not like A Good Girl's Guide to Murder if you prefer your detectives a little more gruff and hard done by. You despise a small town murder mystery and just want something set in London or New York, somewhere bustling and busy. Another reason you might not like A Good Girl's Guide to Murder is if you want something a little bit more thrilling from the jump. And finally, if you just hated the book, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. And if that is you, then I can only say thanks for listening to this entire pilot review. And now the very last thing to do is to give the pilot episode a score out of 5, and I will be giving the pilots a 3. Fundamentally, it had a great character setup in our protagonist, Pippa Fitz-Amobi, aka Pip, and I think there was a very good setup of storylines to come. I will say that Pip's motivation was a little bit lackluster, and by that I asked the dreaded question, why now? Why is it now, 5 years later, that she decides to look into Andie Bell's case? Yes, it's for her EPQ, but she strikes me as the kind of person who could have just done it for shits and gigs 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago. So why now? I couldn't quite believe that it was just all for the sake of this project. So if there was some sort of memorial service or some new piece of information had come to light or something that then would have triggered Pip to then start looking into the case, even if it's for her EPQ, that would have felt slightly more believable to me. And finally, the dialogue and in general the story didn't have an urgency to it to really pull me in as I watched. I was enjoying it as I was watching, but it felt like I was just watching. There wasn't any sort of anticipation or championing of Pip and her investigation. And really it was the end of episode hook that really saves the pilot episode and at least pulls you in to consider watching episode 2. Which is sneaky AF, but hey, it works. Now that we have hashed out the fundamental principles, will you be giving the pilot episode a watch? Or have you already binged every episode of A Good Girl's Guide to Murder over on BBC iPlayer? Don't forget to press the follow button for the pilot principle on your audio streamer of choice. It's free, and come and chat to me over on Threads, Instagram and Twitter/X at Pilot Principle and at A Writer of Sorts over on TikTok, where you can leave me a red heart emoji on your social media platform of choice, so I know who's made it to the end of this pilot review on A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Now that is all said and done, I will catch you on the next episode.